So you decided to join the Army and you're trying to get physically prepared, but you want to know, like, when are you actually physically ready for basic training? So I know a lot of you guys out there right now are like I was a couple of years ago, and you have sworn in, you're ready to go for basic training, you're shipping, whether it's next week or in a couple months, or maybe you're like in the delayed entry program and you're gonna ship like plus 6 months from now, and you're trying to get physically prepared. You're watching some of my videos, you're watching some of the push-up videos, you're doing some running on your own. I know it's cold right now, but maybe you're running the treadmill, and you're thinking to yourself, like, I'm trying to get physically ready for basic training, and you want to get in the best shape possible, but like, what is that good shape? Like, how do you know when you're actually ready for basic training as far as physically goes? Mentally is another story, but physically, how do you know like when you're ready? This video is pretty much going to be 100% my own personal opinion on this topic, but I do want to say at the beginning of this, I am in the mindset, or I have the belief that no matter what shape you go to at basic training, doesn't matter what shape you're in the first day of basic training, I do personally believe that if you have that mindset, and if you're working towards it, you will pass basic training. You may definitely fail the first couple of PT tests, and then it'll be up to you at the end of basic training to pass the last PT test to pass basic training. And combined with the physical training that they're going to give you at basic training, as well as you doing your own thing at night, I do believe that no matter what shape you're in, you will be able to pass basic training. It's not going to be all that difficult to do that. It's not going to be as difficult as a lot of people think, because you're going to be working out, losing weight, exercising basically the entire time, and it's just completely up to you. So if you don't pass basic training because of your physical fitness, it's definitely going to be something where you're going to have to blame yourself for that, because you didn't work hard enough and you didn't take that extra time at night to do extra push-ups and whatnot. But how do you know before basic training if you're actually ready? Now I'm going to throw a couple numbers at you guys. These are definitely rough, and I thought back to my basic training experience and the people that went to basic training and how they were actually physically prepared. Was it difficult, whenever you're getting smoked at basic training? At what physical level do you have to be at when the smokings and all that stuff isn't necessarily as bad as some people who are getting to basic training and they can only do 10, 15 push-ups or even less than that? Because that experience is going to be far different than somebody who's coming to basic training already maxing the PT test. It's going to be completely different physical experiences. So in my general thoughts and opinions on this, if you're curious, if you are ready. Now this, again, this isn't, oh, what physical shape do you have to be in to pass basic training, because I've already established that no matter what shape you're in, whether you can't even do one push-up and you can't even run a mile without stopping, no matter what shape you're in, you're going to be able to pass basic training. But at what point, what numbers do you have to hit to where you think, or I think, you are actually ready for basic training and you're prepared to take it on without the full physical just burden that you will have to endure if you're not in shape? One of the big components about basic training is push-ups, right? So for the PT test, you gotta do push-ups. That's one of the main things that you get smoked, or one of the main exercises that you have to do when you're getting smoked. So about how many push-ups do you need to be able to do in order for basic training to be not as difficult, for you to be ready for basic training? And in my personal opinion, for a 2-minute PT test, or just your maximum amount of push-ups, whichever one comes first, if you can do 60 push-ups or more, then I think you're good to go. I do my Sunday push-up video, and a lot of you guys can do over 60 push-ups in a minute, right? I don't know how well you're actually doing those push-ups, or if you're doing like half push-ups or anything, but I do know that if you can at least do 60 push-ups, you're going to be physically ready for the push-ups and all that stuff. The PT test push-ups, you're going to be ready for the push-ups that the drill sergeants are going to have to make you do. You are going to be ready for that side of things, right? And the other side of things with the cardio and the running and all that, maybe you're running a little bit right now, maybe you're struggling on the run. What kind of numbers do you want to hit in order to be successful running at basic training? You're not exhausted all the time, because cardio is going to come into play on a daily basis, whether it's literally you just rucking around with your rucks on, because you're going to be rucking at a pretty fast pace. It's definitely not going to be a casual walk whenever you're doing ruck marches, or the drill sergeants are going to have to make you run back and forth, and they're going to make you doing all these things. So cardio is going to come into play every single day. Now, basing off the PT standards, right? You got to do the 2-mile run, and depending on your age, the minimum run time for you is going to be somewhere around 16.5 minutes. So 16 minutes, 30 seconds, somewhere around there, depending on your age. A lot of people ask me, hey, what's the minimum or maximum, or what's the minimum score for my age or for me or whatever? It just depends on your age. So you guys can literally just Google the Army PT scores and you'll figure out what run times you need to get. But if you can do a 2-mile run in under 15 minutes, then I think you are good to go at basic training. And I do also believe that if you can do a 2-mile run in sub 15, right? So sub 15 2-mile run, then you're gonna be knocking on that door of a 13-minute mile by the end of basic training, especially if you push yourself. Especially if you push yourself at basic training. If you can do, again, a 2-mile run, less than 15 minutes, then I do think that you are going to be physically, cardiovascularly ready for basic training. So now I want to talk about the other aspect of basic training, and one of the ways you're going to be getting smoked is the plank. So if you're in the front leaning rest position, which is basically a plank that most people do on their elbows, but if you have it on your hands, that's going to be the front leaning rest position, which is the upper position of the push-up. That's going to be working your core a lot, and you're going to be in that position a long time. A lot of times drill sergeants, they'll smoke you for a little bit, and then they'll just talk to you for like 10 or 15 minutes, and they're going to leave you in the front leaning rest position, and they're going to yell at you and stuff if you try to rest, if your knees drop and stuff like that. So you're going to be in this position a long time at basic training. You're going to get pretty good at doing these planks. Now, before basic training, how do you want your core to be? So for the sit-ups wise, if you're trying to get ready for the PT test for basic training, again, if you can do a roundabout or more than 60 sit-ups in 2 minutes, then I think you're pretty much ready for that. But as far as planks go, a lot of people actually do struggle with planks, and they can't hold their core together. Their core isn't strong enough to actually hold their bodies up without sagging, without having to take a break or anything like that. So my other way of going to judge you guys on getting ready for basic training is pretty simple, is being able to hold a plank position with your hands on the ground rather than your elbows, with your hands on the ground for longer than 5 minutes. So if you can do that for longer than 5 minutes, at basic training, it's definitely going to be a lot longer than that. Sometimes you literally might be in the front leaning rest position for like over 30 minutes, but you're probably going to be dropping your knees. You're probably going to be like sneaking in a couple knee drops when the drill sergeant turns around. You're going to drop to your knees, and when he turns back around to look your way, you're going to get back up in the front leaning rest position. So it's not going to be that long. So if you're doing a plank at basic training for 30 minutes, you're probably going to cheat a little bit. But if you can do one on your own, like for real, longer than 5 minutes, when it comes to basic training, you're going to be ready. You're not going to be like one of those guys who gets smoked, who's in the plank and their core and their arms and their shoulders and everything is just super sore because they're not ready for this stuff. So if you can do these things that I've talked about, if you are physically capable of doing these things, then I do personally believe that you are ready for basic training. Now, in none of these scenarios are you going to be maxing out the PT test, right? So if you're trying to max out the PT test for the Army, for, let's say, for example, my age, I'm in the 22 to 26-year-old bracket. I've got to do 75 push-ups, 80 sit-ups, and a 13-minute 2-mile. So none of those standards I said are where you're going to be ready for basic training are maxing the PT test. It is just a point where I think whenever you do get smoked for the shark attack, for any other regular old smoking, you're going to be physically ready for that. You're going to be able to handle that. And if you have a PT test the next day, but you get smoked the day before, you're not going to be really sore for the basic training PT test, because that does happen sometimes. They will smoke you the day before a PT test, even though they probably shouldn't if they're wanting people to pass, but it happened to us. So they might smoke you the day before a PT test, and if you're barely past that PT test, if you're barely squeaking by, your soreness might hinder your ability to pass that PT test. So for those of you who asked me these two questions, I barely can do anything, and am I ready for basic training? The answer is no. Just do your best to get ready, because no matter what shape you're going to be in, I do believe you're going to pass. So whether you haven't ran at all, you're shipping next week, just do your best to get ready. Or the other person who sends me questions or tells me that they're running freaking like 40 miles a day or 40 miles a week or whatever, and doing like really crazy stuff, and they'll ask me, am I ready for basic training? The answer is yes, right? So if you are maxing the PT test, if you've tested yourself and you're maxing the PT test before basic training, you're definitely gonna be ready. You're definitely gonna be good to go. The physical aspect of basic training is not going to be as difficult as you as somebody who is barely passing or can't pass the PT test. So now you know whether or not you're going to be ready for basic training, in my opinion, physically. I hope that helped you guys out a lot. If you had any of those questions, I hope I answered those. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you want to stick around some more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. That would be even better. If you're not already, follow me on social medias right here. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.